formally in just a little bit. As most of you know, scammers are unfortunately hard at work. They're always evolving their tricks to try and steal your money. So we're glad you've joined us today to learn more about how to protect yourself. Now, before we begin our program, we want to invite you to an exciting in-person event this month. We're partnering with the FBI to discuss the latest scams at our event called Scam Jam. Learn to spot the latest scams. We're going to hear from people who fell victim to a scam. They're going to share their stories and what they learned, and there'll be a panel of experts to answer your questions. There's a QR code on your screen that you can scan now to register if you're interested. It's on April the 22nd at 2 p.m. at the Weber Human Services Building in Ogden. There's going to be free snacks and giveaways, so we'd love for you to join us. Space is limited, so sign up today to secure your spot. Now, if you've never used a QR code, it's the easiest thing in the world. You just treat it like it's a picture, and so you just put your camera on, you hover over the top of the QR code, and you'll be able to quickly be taken to the site where you can register for that great event. Again, that's April the 22nd at 2 p.m. at the Weber Human Services Building in Ogden. Free snacks, free giveaways, and we would love to have you join us. We're also going to be holding a similar event in Salt Lake City in the fall, so be on the lookout for that. All right, we're going to take a poll. And so, what we would like you to do is you should see a question that has popped up. We want to know how you found out about today's webinar. So, what we would like for you to do is just in the chat function, and you'll find your chat at the bottom of the screen. Just throw in the answer to anything that you are being asked about on these polls. So, how did you hear about this webinar? Did you receive something in the mail? Did you get an email? Did you see the class posted on social media? Did you hear about it from a friend? Or did you hear about it in some other way? We'll let everybody take just a second. Looks like email seems to be leading the charge. Thanks everybody for responding. Email, lots of mail, flyer. Oh, AARP magazine. Nice. Mail, emails, searching the events calendar. Oh, that's a good one too. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for letting us know. This helps us so much in the way that we advertise and the way we put our information out. It's really helpful for us to know about how you learned about this event. So if you have questions, you've all now discovered where the chat feature is. So if you have questions during the presentation, put them in the chat box. We'll get to them at the end of the presentation during the Q&A portion. And one last note, a recording of this event is going to be available on demand on AARP Utah's YouTube account. You'll get a link sent in a follow-up email tomorrow morning. So if you want to check out the recording of it, you absolutely can. So we've toured the platform and now on to the program. The latest report from the AARP Fraud Watch Network reveals that millions are at risk as scams surge for the fifth straight year. And remember, if you have questions during the presentation, put your questions in the chat tab and we'll get to them at the end. Joining us today is Supervisory Special Agent Michael Montoya. Mike has been with the FBI since 2008. In his current role as a supervisory special agent in financial crimes, Mike is committed to preventing fraud and supporting complex white collar crime investigations that significantly impact Utah residents. So, Mike, we're going to bring you up on screen here. We hope anyway, as long as the technology will cooperate with us.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you great. Mike, welcome. You're a little blurry. Not sure why that is, but I don't know if you can focus. There you go. So, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to learn from you. We wanted to ask one more poll question quickly, if we could get to know each other just a little bit better. So, you should see another poll. It should pop up on the screen in just a second here. Yep, there it is. We want to know, have you ever fallen victim to a scam? Yes, no, or almost, but I figured out it was a scam before it was too late. Mostly no's, one or two yeses, almosts. Yeah, scammers are out there and they are always trying to figure out ways to get you. A couple other people, yes, no, almost. Mike, what do you think about these poll results? Oh, almost, but my wife saved me. I love that, Kirk.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm sure if you asked if they know someone that's fallen victim, I imagine that's probably everyone, right? Or we've all heard stories, right? So, not surprising there.
Well, thank you. We're excited about your presentation, Mike. If For everybody who's listening, if you have questions for Mike, be sure to drop them in the chat. We'll get them toward the end of the presentation. So, Mike, I'm going to give it to you, and you can share your screen with your slides.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. All right. Can you see the slide deck?
We can see the slide deck, but you're there you go. You're in presentation mode.
Perfect. Hey, good evening, everyone. I just want to say especially thanks to the AARP team. I think they are really leading the charge in terms of putting information out there as it relates to these scams and the frauds that are all over the place in every direction we look. So I really appreciate them and really appreciate them allowing me to join y'all and say a few things tonight. Hopefully, you'll take a few things away from this. I think one of the main points I want to kind of bring to everybody's attention is our resource, the Internet Crime Complaint Center, the ic3.gov. This has a number of resources on it, pretty similar. I mean, I've seen the AARP; they have a ton of resources as well. They got a lot of awesome media and stuff that we don't necessarily have. But this is a place that you can find additional resources that should complement what you're seeing through the AARP channels as well. Anybody that falls victim to a unfortunate fraud incident, we really direct them here to file a complaint. You see that on this is a screenshot of their website. This is where we send everyone to file a complaint, and we say do that as quickly as possible, whenever they find out about it, and that allows us to hopefully recover funds if we're able to. But that's kind of the first item I want to bring to everybody. Second, we're going to talk about a few different scams or a number of different scams, maybe some key indicators of a scam. And hopefully, by giving some general awareness, that'll help kind of open your eyes to some different ways that the fraudsters work. And then hopefully finish with a few specific tips that hopefully will help you all out. So hopefully this will be a good start to the different deals. So I'm here in the Salt Lake FBI office. We manage the financial fraud stuff on my squad. We work a ton with our state partners and our local partners and really try to go after these. But as you can see, the number of scams and the dollar amount continues to go up, unfortunately. And as I mentioned, the ic3.gov, this is a resource that not only is it where we're tracking a lot of this data, but it's also where we work to recover the funds. And the other aspect to it of recovering the funds is what we call our RAT team or the recovery asset team. They have relationships with a lot of the financial institutions, the banks, and what they'll do is when they get a complaint. You can see there on the left the victim submitting their complaint on the website. It goes in, and then they've got IC3 analysts that will process these and look at them. And if they're within a certain time frame and dollar loss, they will start working immediately with the bank to try to recover those funds. And they've had some awesome success. This is a little bit dated in terms of the stats on the bottom, but generally speaking, you see there they got 73% success rate and recovered a whole lot of money and doing an amazing job for us. So that's where we direct folks there. The other resource there, if you're curious or if you ever need some statistics, they post every year all the different loss amounts that happen, as well as the different scam types that are out there. In the last week or so, they just posted the 2025 data, so you can go and see the latest. But just to give a few highlights from that, unfortunately, the numbers increased. We're now at $21 billion for losses in 2025, if you can fathom that figure. And so a pretty big increase. I will attribute some of the increase. I mean, every time we do a presentation, we try to talk about the IC3.gov. So we're really trying to push the awareness. So I do see that as indicator of the numbers increasing every year, but I do think the scams are also increasing every year. I think most of the folks here reside in Utah. So some figures that kind of relate 2025 to Utah. 68 million of those losses. This is just specific to Utah, not the whole US. So just in Utah alone, we had $68 million that was investment fraud losses, and then 11 million additionally that was confidence or romance scams. We'll talk about what those are. $25 million that were business email compromises, and of a lot of the different losses within Utah, $100 million of it was cryptocurrency or virtual currency related. So the numbers continue to be staggering. I happen to be watching the news today, and the new acting attorney general was talking about how they're looking to continue to prioritize fraud, which is good to see that that's being prioritized. Unfortunately, you'll also see that this is a little dated in terms of last year or 2 years ago, sorry. But the most majority impacted is our complainants that are 60 years and older. They tend to be the highest victims to this. So I'm going to talk more about this, circle back to this, and you'll see this as we talk about the different types of scams, frauds that are out there. So some common things that you'll see in almost all these frauds is that they're some sort of emotion base that they're looking for from your response. A lot of the cases, it's, hey, someone calling you saying, hey, there's an arrest warrant out for you. If you don't get down here and pay this, then we're going to come to your house and arrest you, right? So you're going to get immediately emotional response, which sort of limits your thought process. And then the other piece to that being the time sensitivity. Hey, you need to take care of this now, or else, you're going to go to jail or something bad's going to happen. So those are really some big indicators that it might be a fraud. The thing we're going to want to do is just take a deep breath, try to think through that aspect, and then look to alternate type of verification, right? If it's someone saying they're the police and they're going to arrest you, likely.
Sorry, Mike, I muted you for a second. Hold on a second. That was my bad. Somebody was talking in the background. Let me unmute you real fast. Sorry. Try it again, Mike.
Mike, you may have to push your unmute button on your computer screen as well.
Sorry about that. There you go.
All right, you got me?
Yep.
Awesome. No problem. So as it relates to trying to protect herself, once we feel that this may be a victim or this may be a scam, the initial piece is just taking a breath, trying to find some alternate means to verify whatever their story is, right? If they're saying they're the police, then, you hang up and you call your local police and tell them the situation, and they'll tell you whether that's true or not. And then, as we do with everything else in life, you can Google it and see all these scams. Folks have fallen victim to unfortunately everything. And so a lot of times you may find indicators once you start researching it. So those are the things we're going to see in all these different types of scams we're going to talk about.
Hey, Mike, can you reshare your screen again too?
Yep.
Share your screen. Yeah, there you go. Sorry. Thank you, Shauna. Shanna. There we go.
Coming across.
Yep. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so first type of scam we're talking about is our romance scam. So these typically will start on some type of social media, Facebook, now LinkedIn, WhatsApp, and usually they'll move to some other type of communication. Sometimes we'll get a random text message, someone saying hello, and we strew up a conversation with them. And then eventually it'll lead to, hey, let's move this conversation over to WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram. And then usually as time goes on, they'll always kind of say, yeah, let's meet up. They may do some sort of proxy video calls where you actually see a person, which makes them even more believable. And then they always promise that they're going to meet up. And then for some reason, something always seems to happen, and that never happens. A lot of times, they'll impersonate a soldier that's living overseas. He's deployed overseas, and he's communicating, develops that relationship, some excuse for why they aren't here local. And then eventually they'll lead to some type of trouble or taxes or other strewn business. A lot of times, I'm a soldier, I'm living in Europe, and then now I'm having trouble. I can't get back to the US. I've been arrested. I need money. And then sometimes there'll be even celebrities that folks think they're speaking to, and they'll eventually start asking for funds to help save them. How do we avoid these? A lot of times, just that old meet in person, right? So a lot of these scams have the similar traits of kind of moving to WhatsApp or other forms of communication and then never actually meeting. So those are usually some indicators to the romance scam. Similarly to the arrest, right? We see these kidnapping extortion ones. They'll say, hey, they may view your social media and see that you have a grandson or granddaughter in school, in college, and they may say, hey, I've got your grandson, and if you don't give me money, then I'm going to do something. Similarly, they'll have maybe this started as a romance scam. They exchanged photos, and then they will also do other type of implications to embarrass a person and then extort them to do that. And most often in these cases, we're recommending contacting law enforcement and going that route with those as well. You can, if it is, hey, we have your grandson kidnapped, a lot of times folks will turn around and call their grandson, and they're at home watching TV kind of deal. So again, trying to find some other means to verify what they're telling you. A lot, as I mentioned, in terms of these investment scams, a lot of folks, a lot of news about people getting rich with cryptocurrency or virtual currency. So the thing that we'll see on these now through LinkedIn and other places that you may consider more reputable, right? A lot more information that's passed there. Usually you're looking for business collaboration, things of that nature. Scammers are now using those types of websites to appear to be an investment banker, and then they develop a relationship, and then they start to tell you about some investment opportunities. WhatsApp, different investment groups will pop up and say, hey, we're all getting rich on cryptocurrency and virtual currency. And obviously, we hear a lot about that in the news as well, in terms of folks getting potentially rich off these form of funds. And I mean, it goes back to the old saying: if it sounds too good to be true, it is, right? If people are making 1,000% investment income off of it, it's probably not accurate. Again, as we say, do your homework, go back to Google, go to these reputable investment firms. A lot of them will actually give a guaranteed return. They'll say, hey, we guarantee that we'll give a 10% return. I think anybody that's invested funds knows that nobody legitimate is going to give you a guaranteed return. So again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. We will also see these cryptocurrency scams will start as confidence frauds, right? So they'll feint that romantic interest or a friendship as being that soldier or other person of interest that they're developing that with. And then again, mention the LinkedIn. So they'll use these platforms where they've developed the relationship, and then they actually have these websites that look like they're investment websites. They look like you put some money in there, and it appears that the funds are actually trading interest and making you a lot of money. And so, as you see here, it starts with the victim and scammer communicating, developing some sort of relationship, and then they'll have you invest the funds either through a fake crypto website or have folks that are less technically inept to go to a Bitcoin ATM, which we've seen a few of these outlawed in different parts of the country because of the amount of fraud that's on them. But these are just means where they can direct you easily to take cash from your savings and then go to these ATMs and deposit it, and then from there it'll go to what we call crypto wallets, just virtual wallets, and from there they send those funds to their accounts, and unfortunately at that point it's pretty difficult to recover. And again, this is just showing this website shows what appear to be profits, and then it's going over to these crypto exchanges, which you would probably call similar to like a bank where the money sits. So why are we seeing the rise of cryptocurrency and virtual currency being used by our bad guys? These are kind of some of the main reasons. I think some of the benefits that people see with virtual currency are also the drawbacks, right? So folks say you can that crypto kind of transcends the globe, and that's where it becomes borderless. It can go around the world without regulation of the speed of it, right? You submit your cash into a Bitcoin ATM and it's around the world almost instantly. And so these typically when you have funds that transfer overseas, that takes time and effort through the banks to process through all the different stopgaps that go. And so with cryptocurrency, that's not a limitation. So the bad guys can take your funds and transit them all the way to China within a few minutes. So it's almost impossible at that point to get it back. As well, the bad guys know the different laws around the world, right? Some places it's easier to kind of move these funds and to once they've transferred the funds to Africa, we'll say, and then they cash them out of a bank in Africa, it becomes much more difficult for us, right? We don't have any regulation over the banks in Africa. And then the thing that helps us, though, is there's a belief on their end that they're fully anonymous, that cryptocurrency is fully anonymous. Fortunately for us, we're able to do some tracing and seize some of these funds, even in these cryptocurrency cases. But it is, again, much more difficult. Tech support. This happens very often with folks that currently have crypto or virtual currency. They'll get a call from someone, maybe wherever they house their crypto, whatever that bank or institution is that's holding their crypto, and they'll get a call that their email was compromised or their account was compromised, and they'll basically convince them to give them information, personal information, that where the subject's able to access that cryptocurrency wallet and then transfer that funds. You'll see this sometimes with other forms of scams where they will customer service type scams where it'll pop up on your computer. Hey, your computer has a virus, call this phone number. Again, those are always times where we don't want to call the number that's being provided to us, right? They say that with our bank. If somebody says, hey, this is, Wells Fargo, call us at this phone number. No, you go back to your actual bank account and your actual phone number that you have listed for them, and you call through that one. You don't call through the number that they provide to you. Again, this is pretty similar as it relates to these different data breaches or tech support scams, where it appears that Google or Facebook or some other entity will call you and tell you your account's been compromised. and you need to do X, Y, and Z. And sometimes you'll end up inadvertently providing them with some information about yourself or your account. And so they'll use that. So again, what we say is, hang up off that call and then use a legitimate number to circle back and confirm that. We have seen a rise in these government impersonation scams. We've actually seen some scams with IC3 where they have pretended to be IC3 or, the FBI or the police or, fill in the blank. And they'll ask them to either work and use their funds to do undercover operations, or they'll use other means like these gold bar scams where they'll say, hey, this is the FBI. We know that your bank has been defrauded. What we need you to do is withdraw all your retirement, go purchase gold bars, and then we're going to keep these gold bars safe for you. So these are scams that unfortunately folks are falling victim to in different forms of people cashing out their accounts and then purchasing forms of gold bars or cryptocurrency and then being promised that it would be kept safe. Unfortunately, in these cases, they're oftentimes giving the gold bars and such over to the bad guys. Another one here is our phishing scams. These are basically where you'll get a fraudulent email or message. What you appear to be from, Google, and your Gmail has been compromised, and they'll have you click on a link, and then from there, you'll type in your Google password or your credit card information, and they'll use that and steal that information from you by using these phishing or fake websites. Pretty similarly, I mentioned that we had the $25 million that was lost last year in Utah to business email compromises. Unfortunately, this is impacting a lot of the small businesses that don't have the kind of security or the staffing or other aspects of cybersecurity in place. So what will likely happen is the criminal sends some sort of email message that appears to come from someone that they know, making a legitimate request that they expect. So, for example, you have a small tile business. You usually buy your tiles from a specific vendor, and then that once a month, you get a bill from them. Well, in this case, the scammer will come in with a very similar email address, pretending to be your company that you're paying. They'll say, hey, we need to change the wire instructions. Can you send your funds to this other account instead? And unfortunately, the business will send the funds over there. And then usually there'll be some time that passes because of this, right? That their actual vendor will contact them and say, hey, you haven't paid us yet. And they're like, well, yeah, I paid you several weeks ago. And unfortunately, by this time, it's weeks or possibly months down the road before either parties realize they've been scammed. This is a pretty good example of what like a business email compromise might look like. You're used to getting your email from John at FBI.gov, but as you can see here, they changed the gov to instead of GUV. So they'll make those really small tweaks that if you're used to dealing with these folks, you're not going to necessarily pick that up. So how are we going to try to prevent these business email compromise? One, make sure our emails are secure. We're using the two-factor authentication for logging into our email, but also any of these correspondences that relate to payments or purchases. We see this a lot in real estate where someone's going to put, a $300,000 down payment on the house that they're buying. Somebody will come in and pretend to be the title company. So in all these cases, we want to call whoever our legitimate person is and verify that stuff at a minimum over the phone, or likely better if we can verify that stuff in person in terms of that. And a good key indicator, again, that time sensitivity. If the requester is pressing you to act quickly, right, that allows you to not really think through the aspects. So if they're looking for you to move quickly, then that's another indicator that it's possibly a scam. So here you can see that another example of we call this the toll scam, where basically, again, you may have traveled recently and you'll get a text notification. It'll appear that it's from, well, in this case, it's Arizona DOT, saying that you have an outstanding toll and that you need to pay it. And then usually, there's some threat that if you don't pay it, that you're going to get these bills and other things. As you can see here, there's a slight change to that. So it appears like it's a .gov, but they have these other additions to the end that if, again, you're not necessarily cyber aware, that you may click on that and it appears to be an Arizona.gov website. The appearance looks legitimate, but unfortunately, it's not legitimate. And then they usually steal your credit card information and then immediately start making purchases with your credit card. So again, we're going to go somewhere else to try to verify that, right? We're going to go to the actual Arizona DOT website and verify if we actually did incur those tolls. Here we're talking about our investment or securities fraud Ponzi schemes. What are these? We call them affinity fraud. A lot of times, unfortunately, in Utah, folks are very trusting and kind, and in that case, it leads to some of these Ponzi schemes really exploding because their friends and other folks in their family sort of lead them on to what they believe to be a legitimate investment. And so, hey, I found out about this cryptocurrency from this investment banker. I got my fake website where I think I'm making thousands of dollars, and then I get other family members and other friends to also invest in it. And again, when as we indicated earlier, when they say like, hey, guaranteed 10% return, hey, this is a once in a lifetime investment, you're going to earn millions of dollars, all these things that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So those are some of the indicators. This is a little bit of a new one. This is like your PayPal or your Venmo Cash App scams, we call them. So in this case, James Dragon sent you and actually what appears to be $325, and then they'll reverse that and tell you like, hey, I accidentally paid you, I meant to pay someone else. Unfortunately, because you're kind, you say, oh, not a big deal, I'll send you your $325 back to you since it was an accident. And then what'll usually happen is the scammer will bail out of it, and then unfortunately, the Venmo account will charge you, but the scammer will never actually get charged in that case. So money laundering, this is something that you should look out, not just for yourself, but other individuals, close friends. You have someone that's developed a relationship online. They believe it to be a romantic relationship, possibly, or maybe it sounds like it's a business opportunity. And basically, what you potentially are doing is laundering money. In a lot of these cases, it's elder folks that are appear to be an easy job where they can make some money. And what'll happen is they've developed this romantic online relationship, and they'll say, hey, I'm going to send you some checks for my business. All I need you to do is take those checks and deposit them in this account, or take this money and send it on to this individual. And in a lot of these cases, unfortunately, these folks are receiving victim funds from other types of scams. Maybe you're receiving those investment, what people believe to be crypto investment funds, and you're turning around and sending those to other folks. Same thing with the crypto ATMs. They may be using someone as a money mule, as we call it, to move the money. So again, this indicates kind of that work from home job opportunity where it's those unsolicited emails or social media messages about easy money for little effort. You appear to be helping a business move along. So, and then again, down there in the bottom are dating or social media websites where they're asking you to receive money and then send it on to somewhere else. In a lot of these cases, you don't know where the money's coming from or where it's going to. So how are we going to prevent the money mule aspects? I mean, we're going to do some, again, research online to check to determine if this company is legitimate. And especially in a lot of these cases, they're asking the what we call money mule to use their own bank accounts, right? They may, if it's a romantic relationship, they may say, "Hey, I'm having some bank issues, or I'm overseas, so I can't get a U.S. account, so I need you to just take this money and send it on, and I'll give you 10% of the money as it travels through for payment." So these are all kind of forms of you funneling victim funds for the subjects. So again, these for in terms of other people, what you may see is again some of the them moving a lot of money for no real apparent reason. A lot of the communications being on that WhatsApp or the Signal, them believing to be that they're in a romantic relationship and they're just helping someone out. These are all kind of key indicators that someone might be involved with this. In addition to, I kind of just throw this up from here. Those are all the kind of common scams or the main scams we're seeing today. Again, they're ever changing. As it relates to the healthcare fraud, this is something I won't dive into this for this presentation, but here's just some resources as it relates to healthcare fraud, because it is also something that's a significant effort for us. I mentioned the ic3.gov as a resource for all our investment or other money incidents, but there's also just our general website and phone numbers for reporting other crimes. In addition to the AARP, this National Elder Fraud Hotline is actually quite amazing, if you ask me. It's part of our Department of Justice Elder Initiative. What this will do is actually assign a counselor for someone. So if somebody does not have the ability to enter the complaint through ic3.gov, they can call this Elder Fraud Hotline and they can assist someone in terms of inputting their information or getting them other resources to try to help them out. Here in Utah, we work closely with our Division of Securities entity. They do a lot of the different investment type fraud that happens within Utah, as well as at the national level, the Securities Exchange. They've got some different resources. If you go to their both their websites, something that's pretty new for Utah that's pretty awesome is this Utah Fraud Prevention Initiative. This website, if you go to the utfraud.com, it actually will put folks, they have a registry there, kind of like our Crimes Against Children registries. This registry actually shows individuals that have been charged in a lot of cases. Someone will run an investment scam, they'll go to jail, and then shockingly enough, the first thing they do when they come out of jail is start doing another investment scam. And so when you see someone that's offering to do the investment, help you with investments, this is a good place to search the individual, and you can see on there if they've been previously charged for white collar crimes. Our local law enforcement, they're always folks that you can walk into, and we work closely with them on our different fraud investigations. I think I mentioned all these, just the different websites. There's so much research and information out there. Depending what specifically you're looking for, there's a few good ones. The FTC and SEC, like I said, they have a little bit more investment directed advice, and ours is more kind of criminal in nature. As it relates to websites, this is one example. It's called Virus Total. If you go to Virus Total, sometimes you'll see shopping websites or other websites that these crypto investment sites. Virus Total is a website where you can input that URL. So that here is an example at the top of what someone offered as an investment platform for cryptocurrency. It's verse-exchange. And so put it here in Virus Total. It's telling you that this has been flagged as a malicious website. And so again, you have that romantic relationship where they say, hey, here's this platform where you can put some money into and invest in cryptocurrency. You can go to a website like Virus Total and see, and it'll tell you if it's been flagged before. Unfortunately, some of the websites that are really new, right, they're constantly creating websites. If it's a brand new website, it may not necessarily flag it. So just be wary that it's not a 100% proof. So, kind of wrapping up here as we go into our general tips. We talked through this, right? A whole number of scams there. And again, as I mentioned, a lot of them are emotion based, right? Our romance, we think we're in a romantic relationship and getting good advice. We think someone's in trouble. We think we're in trouble. So, something that's driving us to be emotional, and then sometimes sensitivity to it. So, if there's someone that says, hey, we need you to send money now, that's a big indicator, and we're going to look to use some sort of alternate means to verify whether this is accurate or not. Here's a few other kind of random tips that are throw out there in no particular order. There's the free credit reports, right? It's always good to check those. If you're at a stage in your life where you're not going to be purchasing a house or a big purchase or anything, you can actually freeze your credit account and nobody can open lines of credit off of it, including yourself. So just be wary of that it does take some time to unfreeze your account. But if it's something where you're not looking to make purchases, that may be something that would be good to do. In terms of our email and our banks, right? We don't necessarily think of our email of having a super secure password, but again, that's where a lot of these business email compromises or tech support or other scams are coming in. As well, our email is often used to verify our bank account passwords and change all our other passwords. So again, having a strong email and bank passwords and using the two-factor authentication is really important. I recommend folks get password managers. It's basically software that you can put all your passwords in, so we don't have to remember them or write them all down. It's a kind of a secure means to secure a number of passwords and allows you to have really strong passwords. As it relates to adding a family member, so one thing that we can do, especially if we have someone that's older and getting in poor health or having other issues, you can start to add a family member to your account. And AARP, I think, talks about this in a number of their deals where you can have someone that kind of helps verify if someone's acting suspicious with transactions. It allows the bank to call their spouse or whoever that individual is and verify that some of this stuff is in fact what you want to do. And then here's again, the CISA has a lot of online or cyber related things. These are tips we've already talked about, right? Don't click on our suspicious URLs. Don't invest in crypto unless you really are educated through it. If a friend provides that advice, be cognizant of those things. And then be careful in terms of providing our personal information or other information, especially in a lot of those tech support scams where they're calling you and then you inadvertently start giving them information about where you bank or other things. And then, unfortunately, if you do get scammed or someone gets scammed, right? Don't be embarrassed. Unfortunately, it's happened to everyone or anyone that everybody knows someone, right? So the biggest thing that I say is report as quickly as possible and then retain whatever evidence that you may have. A lot of those things like the account numbers and the cryptocurrency transaction information, those are all super important for us to try to go recover those funds. And then looking for other people, right? So our friends and family. If you start to see an increase in secrecy, right? Someone is starting to use WhatsApp that's never used that or using these other software that they normally wouldn't understand how to use. A lot of these cases are bad guys are kind of walking people through how to set up a WhatsApp account and other things. Individuals that becoming very protective of their phone, moving money around in really odd ways, seeing odd financial charges. These are all kind of indicators. And then these dream investments, right? These things that sound too good to be true. Unfortunately, that means they may be in the middle of a big investment type scam. So these are all kind of indicators that you may look out for. And that wraps it up. I know a lot of information there. In terms of contact for FBI, right here, the SU_fraud at FBI.gov. That's probably our best. That goes to the whole squad, and hopefully we can help support everyone with whatever your possible issue is. But hopefully, again, big indicator here, trying to inform everyone and hopefully give some opportunity for you to identify the fraud and ahead of time and prevent it. As you mentioned, a lot of you had almost fallen victim to that. So with that, I'll turn it back over and see what questions we may have.
All right, Mike, thank you so much. Great information. We appreciate it so much. And if you have a question for Mike, don't hesitate to put it into the chat. We've got a few questions in there already, and then lots and lots of resources that Darren has put in. So if there's questions that you have, don't hesitate to ask them. Suzanne asked the question, we've joined Legal Shield. Are they effective in recovering lost funds, or are we wasting our money? I'm not familiar with Legal Shield. I'm not sure if you are.
I am not familiar with Legal Shield. I will say, as a general sense, there are different entities, especially as it relates to cryptocurrency, that will promise that they can recover your funds. You lost $1 million in crypto. These other companies promise that they'll get your $1 million back. Unfortunately, I would say that I'm not aware of any of them being very successful. And a lot of times those end up being maybe not additional scams, but I would say that it becomes very difficult for other entities to recover the funds if law enforcement can't. So I would say in most of those cases, I do not think they're necessarily worth the funds, but I don't know that one specifically, if that helps.
So caveat emptor, just be very, very careful if you've got that. Joe mentioned that he got the toll text this very day. How prevalent is the toll tax text that's coming for people?
I feel like that one has been around for the year or two, so I feel like it's probably less prevalent. But again, I think the scamsters they'll still give it a try, and if they get one or two, for them it's worth it. But that fortunately has been kind of messaged out a little bit more. If you search that online, you'll see a number of forums that kind of talk about that being a scam.
Shanna asked to repost the elder fraud number, and so Darren put that up in the chat. But do you want to just reiterate that for people who aren't looking at the chat at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. The National Elder Fraud Hotline, it's 833-372-8311. And again, they will help folks out in terms of filing an IC3 or other means of assistance to try to help people out.
Excellent. Let's see. Darren asked the question, what does a crypto ATM look like?
It looks just like a normal ATM to some sense, and they've got them spread through convenience stores. They're all over the place, and you basically just take your cash and go up to it and start putting your money into it, and then it will convert it to cryptocurrency. I believe there's some legitimate uses for them. I also believe that they charge super significant fees, 15, 20%, I've heard on some of those. So again, usually probably not the most financially effective way to invest in crypto, but very often used in different forms of criminal activity.
Mark asks the question, I'm constantly asked if I want to set up a pass key. Do I want to use that? I only use a desktop and don't have a thumb scanner or a video to face scan. Does it make a difference as to whether I want to use a pass key?
No, I would have to refer someone on to the cyber side in terms of, I've seen the pass key myself as well in terms of setting that up. I think it ties specifically to your computer. I can't really speak to how secure it is or how it works in that sense, unfortunately. But I have seen that there are some different two-factor authentication devices that we started using the UB key at work. That basically you'll put in your password and then it'll ask you to put in a thumb drive device that's kind of your secondary key. So I've seen those used by a lot of different corporations and stuff to again, I think the primary piece there having some sort of secondary authentication on our banks and the emails and other important things.
Great, thank you. Marianne just mentioned that she's received a few toll texts as well. Nikki asked the question, can you talk more about the Cash App fraud? Someone asked her for a Venmo account to hold a KSL classified sale item, but no account was given, but the buyer never showed up to pick up the purchase. How do they go about committing fraud if somebody gives a Venmo or somebody gives a Cash App?
Yeah, so I think there's a number of different kind of scams out there, and I, I use Venmo all the time, so I don't want to sound like you shouldn't use these resources. Obviously, these companies are based off it being secure and being able to confidently use that. So I think this is just another platform that criminals will be creative in terms of scamming people. And so the particular scam I talked about was where someone will send you money, right? And then they'll say, "Hey, that was an accident. I didn't mean to send you money." And then you inadvertently send the money back to them. And what I would say in a lot of these, like you mentioned, the classified ad, what we'll see subjects do or things that are key indicators are what you'd expect, right? You're selling whatever, a couch. I'm selling a couch, and someone's like, "Hey, I'm going to send you $500 to hold that couch, and I'll pick it up tomorrow." I mean, who in their right mind is going to send someone they've never seen this couch and they're going to send you $500 to hold it for them? Those are real indicators, right? You just kind of step back and use your common sense of like, you really want to sell the couch, but then when they start talking about moving money or, "Hey, I'm going to send you the money and my brother's going to come get it," or all these things, I have just different forms of creative scams to get ideas.
Excellent, thank you. Elaine asked the question, is IC3.gov the first place you should notify?
I don't know if it's the first place. I'd probably say call your bank, maybe the very first phone call, but very quickly after that would be the IC3.gov. Again, they're sort of based on a time aspect to it, right? If you wait, you sent $500,000 to the wrong person and you wait 3 weeks to go and file that, that's just more days that the scammers have to move that money from account to account to account. So the sooner that you can notify that, the quicker they can start working with a financial institution. The folks that I see being most successful are the ones that immediately call their bank and notify the bank. The bank will start doing the recall, and then they'll also turn around and do the IC3, and then IC3 will be working with the bank, and everybody's kind of working together on it quickly, and those are super successful in a lot of cases, fortunately.
Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, I loved what you said too about not being ashamed. Make sure you get it reported. Even if it's not successful for you to get your money back, you may be preventing somebody else from getting scammed. So it's a great thing to make sure you're notifying. Kristen mentioned that she got a text scam about a traffic violation in New York, and it included a QR code to settle your unpaid balance. Thoughts there?
Yeah, again, I mean, anything where they're trying to elicit that quick response where you think, "Oh man, I need to pay this now or I'm going to get in trouble," right? And then you immediately do it. And then you start thinking, "Wait a second, I wasn't in New York last week." So, those are, again, indicators to them.
Yeah, and hard and fast rule, right? No one from New York is going to be texting your phone number, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, your bank's not going to text you. The IRS isn't going to text you. They connect with people by mail, so it's a good red flag. Shanna asked the question, I have a scam example from Nextdoor app with Venmo. Um, yeah, wow. And she's inviting anybody who wants to connect with her to do so. Carol asked the question, how do you know if a password manager is safe? I'm unfamiliar with them. Sorry, I'm not tech savvy.
No, I would say, again, on this, I don't have one that I would necessarily recommend, but I know from our cyber folks that they recommend it as an option. I would say it's like everything else. I would kind of research them and see. Some of them have cloud based where they have secure way of saving your passwords virtually. I'm a little skeptical of that piece, but I'm sure like the Venmo there, they base their customers off being secure and that whole aspect. But there's a number of different ones out there. I would just say to research them and look at them, and a lot of them will save just directly to your computer or to your device, and they don't share outside of that. And so they can be a good means to make really strong passwords that you don't have to necessarily remember.
Excellent. Thank you. And we'll wrap up with Bipin's quote here. She says, most states will just send things in the mail for overdue. And that's exactly right. There's certain real red flags. If your bank sends a text, if Amazon sends a text, if UPS, all of those things that, they come to you and they've got a phone number or they've got a link, you can almost guarantee that's a scam. All right. Well, if I didn't get to your question, I apologize. I want to thank Mike again with the FBI for taking time out of his busy schedule to join us and answer these very important questions. And if you enjoyed today's webinar as much as we did, we'd love for you to join us for an exciting in-person event at our Scam Jam. We're partnering with the FBI again to discuss the latest scams. There's a QR code on your screen. And again, if you've never used a QR code, easy as pie. Take your iPhone or your device, whatever it is, put it into camera mode, hover that camera right over the QR code, and you should see a link that will take you to the registration site, and you'll be able to register for that in-person event. It's on April the 22nd at 2 p.m. at the Weber Human Services Building in Ogden. Free snacks and free giveaways. We'd love to have you there. So space is limited. Sign up today and secure your spot. And once again, before we wrap, a big thank you to Agent Mike Montoya for leading today's presentation. Thank you all for attending. We hope you have a great night. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.